Danny Cole wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at the pressure gauge one more time. The numbers were wrong. They had been wrong for 3 days now, and nobody seemed to care except him. He had worked as a maintenance technician on the orbital station Horizon's Edge for 6 years. In that time, he had fixed thousands of problems: broken pipes, failed air filters, damaged electrical systems. He knew this station better than anyone else. He knew every corner, every tunnel, and every forgotten storage room. But this pressure problem was different. The readings made no sense. According to his instruments, there was a leak somewhere in Tunnel 7 Delta. But when he checked the tunnel, he found nothing. The walls were solid. The pipes were intact. Everything looked normal. Yet the numbers kept telling him something was wrong. It was late in the station's night cycle when Danny decided to investigate one more time. Most of the crew was sleeping. The corridors were empty and quiet. Only the soft hum of the life support systems broke the silence. He grabbed his toolkit and walked toward Tunnel 7 Delta. The tunnel was located in the oldest section of the station, a part that most people had forgotten about. It was used mainly for storage now. Old equipment, spare parts, things that nobody needed but nobody wanted to throw away. Danny entered the tunnel and turned on his flashlight. The overhead lights here were dim and flickered occasionally. He moved slowly, checking every section of wall, every joint in the pipes. Then he noticed something strange. Near the end of the tunnel, behind a stack of old cargo containers, there was a section of wall that looked different from the rest. The metal panels were the same color, but the spacing was slightly off. Danny had installed these panels himself 4 years ago. He remembered exactly how they were supposed to look. This was not right. He pushed the cargo containers aside and examined the wall more closely. His fingers found a small gap between 2 panels. He pulled, and the panel moved. It was not welded in place like it should have been. Someone had made it removable. Danny felt his heart beat faster. He pulled the panel away completely and saw darkness behind it. Not the darkness of a storage space or a maintenance access point. This was deeper, colder. Air flowed out from the opening, carrying a strange metallic smell that he had never encountered before. He should have reported this immediately. Station protocol was clear about unexpected structural discoveries, but something made him hesitate. Something pulled him forward. Danny stepped through the opening. The passage beyond was not part of the station. He knew this immediately. The walls were made of rough stone, not metal. The floor sloped downward at a gentle angle. This was carved from the asteroid itself, from the rock that the station orbited around. He walked for what felt like 20 minutes. His radio showed only static. His tablet could not connect to the station's network. He was completely cut off from everything he knew. Then the passage opened into a vast chamber. Danny stopped and stared. The space before him was enormous, bigger than the station's main cargo bay. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing with a soft blue light that seemed to come from within the stone itself. The air was cold and still. At the center of the chamber stood machines. They were unlike anything Danny had ever seen. Tall columns of dark metal covered with patterns that hurt his eyes if he looked at them too long. Smaller devices sat on raised platforms, their purpose completely unknown. This was alien technology. There was no other explanation. This was not human. This was not from Earth. Danny's hands shook as he pulled out his tablet. The device could not connect to anything, but the camera still worked. He began recording everything: the walls, the symbols, the machines. He photographed every detail he could see. As he moved deeper into the chamber, he noticed other openings leading to more passages. This was not just a single room. This was an entire complex, hidden beneath the station, carved into the heart of the asteroid. How long had this been here? Who had built it? And most importantly, did anyone on the station know about this? Danny thought about the pressure readings that had led him here, the leak that did not exist. Now he understood. The instruments were not detecting a leak. They were detecting something else. Perhaps the alien machines produced some kind of energy that his equipment could sense. He spent another hour exploring and recording. He found rooms filled with strange containers, halls lined with what looked like sleeping pods, and a central area where all the passages seemed to connect. The blue symbols were everywhere, their meaning completely unknown. Finally, Danny knew he had to go back. His oxygen supply was not designed for extended exploration. He had already been gone too long. He made his way back through the passage, through the hidden opening, and into Tunnel 7 Delta. The familiar metal walls of the station felt strange now. Ordinary. Small. Danny replaced the wall panel and pushed the cargo containers back into position. Then he stood there, breathing heavily, trying to process what he had just experienced. He had discovered proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. He had found an alien base hidden directly beneath a human space station, and he had no idea what to do with this information. Danny did not sleep that night. He sat in his small quarters and watched the recordings over and over again. Each time he hoped he had made a mistake. Each time he hoped the images would show something ordinary, something explainable. But they never did. The alien base was real. The symbols were real. The machines were real. By morning, he had made a decision. He could not keep this secret alone. The discovery was too big, too important. Humanity deserved to know the truth. He went to see his supervisor, Karen Price. She was a stern woman who had spent 30 years in space. She did not smile often, and she did not tolerate excuses. Danny respected her, even if she sometimes made him nervous. Karen listened to his story without interrupting. Her face showed no emotion as he described the hidden passage, the stone corridors, and the vast chamber filled with alien technology. When he finished, she simply stared at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Show me the recordings." Danny handed her his tablet. She watched the entire video in silence. When it ended, she set the tablet down on her desk and looked at him with eyes that seemed suddenly tired. "You should not have gone in there alone," she said. "You should have reported the anomaly immediately." "I know," Danny replied, "but I found something that changes everything. Does it matter how I found it?" Karen did not answer. Instead, she picked up her communication device and made a call. Danny could not hear the other side of the conversation, but he saw how Karen's expression changed. She looked worried, maybe even scared. 48 hours later, a ship arrived at Horizon's edge. It was not a regular supply vessel or a military patrol. This ship had no markings, no identification codes visible on its hull. It docked quietly, and a team of 12 people came aboard. They wore uniforms that Danny did not recognize. Their equipment was advanced, far beyond anything the station possessed. And they moved with the efficiency of people who had done this many times before. The team's leader was a woman named Dr. Patricia Lane. She was older than Danny, with gray hair cut short and sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. She introduced herself as a xenoarchaeologist, a scientist who studied alien artifacts. "We have been waiting for something like this for a very long time," she told Danny. "You have no idea how important your discovery is." The team established a secure area around Tunnel 7 Delta. Guards were posted at every access point. Communication systems were modified to prevent any information from leaving the station without authorization. Danny was allowed to accompany Patricia and her team into the alien base. They moved carefully, documenting everything just as he had done. But their equipment was much better. They could analyze materials, measure energy signatures, and translate some of the simpler symbols on the walls. What they found was both amazing and disturbing. The alien base was not abandoned. It was in a state of waiting. The machines were dormant but functional. The power system still operated, drawing energy from deep within the asteroid. And in the deepest chambers, they found stasis pods. hundreds of them, arranged in perfect rows. Inside each pod was a being, tall, gray-skinned, with large, dark eyes closed in sleep. They were alive, preserved by technology that humans could not begin to understand. "They have been here for a very long time," Patricia said, studying the readings from her scanner. "Perhaps thousands of years, maybe longer." Danny stared at the sleeping aliens. Why? Why would they put themselves to sleep and hide inside an asteroid? Patricia shook her head. "I do not know yet, but there must be a reason. Beings do not build something like this without purpose." Over the following days, the team made more discoveries. They found records carved into the walls, stories told in symbols and images. Patricia and her colleagues worked to translate them piece by piece. The story they uncovered was troubling. The station Horizon's Edge had not been built by accident. The asteroid had been chosen deliberately. Someone in the chain of command, someone with access to classified information, had known about the alien base before the station was ever constructed. "This makes no sense," Danny said when Patricia told him. "Why would anyone build a station on top of something like this and then keep it secret?" "Control," Patricia replied. "Knowledge is power. Whoever knew about this wanted to keep it for themselves. They wanted to study it, understand it, maybe use it someday." Danny felt anger rising in his chest. People have lived and worked on this station for years. Families have been here, children have been born here, and nobody told them they were sitting on top of an alien base? Patricia put a hand on his shoulder. "I understand your anger, but we must be careful. The people who kept this secret are powerful. They will not be happy that the truth is coming out." She was right. 3 days later, an urgent message arrived from Earth. Admiral Craig Bennett, the head of United Space Command, ordered an immediate lockdown of Horizon's Edge. No ships were to arrive or depart. No communications were to leave the station. All information about the discovery was classified at the highest level. Danny watched as soldiers took up positions throughout the station. He saw the worried faces of his colleagues, the fear in their eyes. They did not know what was happening, only that something had changed. Patricia found him in the observation lounge, staring out at the stars. The first alien woke on a Tuesday at 3:47 in the morning. Danny was there when it happened. He had been spending most of his time in the alien base, helping Patricia and her team with their research. Sleep had become difficult for him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the rows of stasis pods and the beings inside them. He was standing near the central chamber when he heard a sound. It was high and clear, like a bell ringing in a cathedral. The sound came from one of the pods closest to what they believed was the control room. Patricia rushed over with her equipment. Other team members gathered around, their faces showing a mixture of excitement and fear. Danny pushed through them to get a better view. The pod was changing. The crystal cover that had remained sealed for thousands of years was slowly retracting. Mist flowed out from inside, cold and white against the blue light of the chamber. Then the alien sat up. It was tall, perhaps 7 feet when standing. Its skin was pale gray, smooth and hairless. Its eyes were large and completely black, like pools of deep water. It wore a simple garment that covered its body from neck to knee. The alien looked around the chamber slowly. It studied the humans gathered before it with an expression that Danny could not read. There was no fear in its movements, no confusion. It acted like someone waking from a planned rest, not someone surprised by strangers. When it spoke, Danny expected strange sounds, clicks and whistles like he had seen in science fiction movies. Instead, a device on the alien's wrist glowed, and words came out in clear English. "You have found us," the alien said. Its voice was deep and smooth. "The waiting is over." Patricia stepped forward. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. "My name is Dr. Patricia Lane. We are humans from the planet Earth. We mean you no harm." The alien tilted its head. "We know of Earth. We have watched your world for many of your centuries. My name, in sounds your tongue can make, is Veth Ra. I am a guardian of the Corvani." Danny felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This was first contact. This was the beginning of a new chapter in human history, and he was watching it happen in a secret chamber beneath a space station. Veth Ra stepped out of the pod and stood before them. Despite being surrounded by armed soldiers, the alien showed no concern. It moved with calm purpose toward a raised platform at the center of the chamber. "There is much to explain," Veth Ra said, "and time is shorter than you know." The alien touched the platform, and suddenly the chamber filled with light. Images appeared in the air, floating like ghosts. Stars, planets, ships moving through the darkness of space. Danny watched in amazement as history unfolded before his eyes. Veth Ra told them about the Corvani, an ancient species that had traveled the stars when humans were still living in caves. They had built great civilizations across hundreds of worlds. They had discovered the secrets of faster-than-light travel, of extending life, of bending energy to their will. But they were not alone in the universe. "There is a threat," Veth Ra said. The images changed to show something dark and terrible. Ships that looked like twisted metal, creatures that seemed more shadow than substance. "We call them the Shrike. They do not build. They do not create. They only consume." The Shrike fed on civilizations. They waited until a species reached a certain level of development, then they attacked. They took everything of value, every resource, every piece of technology, and they destroyed whatever they left behind. "We fought them," Veth Ra continued. "Long ago, my people went to war against the Shrike. The battle lasted for generations. We won, but the cost was terrible. Most of our civilization was destroyed. Our population fell from trillions to millions. The surviving Corvani had made a decision. They would scatter across the galaxy, hiding in remote places. They would watch over young species like humanity, protecting them in secret until they were ready to face the dangers of the universe. We placed ourselves in the long sleep," Veth Ra said. "We programmed our machines to wake us when the time was right, when the species we watched reached the stars." Danny understood now. The Corvani had been waiting for humanity to find them. They had been waiting for this exact moment. But before anyone could respond, a soldier rushed into the chamber. He whispered something to the team's security officer, who then approached Patricia with a grim expression. "We have received a message from Admiral Bennett," the officer said. "He is demanding immediate quarantine of all alien contact. No information is to leave this chamber. Ships are being sent to enforce the lockdown." Patricia's face went pale. "How did he know? We have not sent any reports yet." The officer shook his head. "I do not know." But his response was immediate, too immediate. Danny felt something cold settle in his stomach. The Admiral had known about this before they did. He had been monitoring the situation, waiting for this moment. And now he was moving to control it. Veth Ra observed this exchange without comment. When Patricia turned back to the alien, it spoke again. "Your leaders know of us already. They have known for many of your years." "What do you mean?" Patricia asked. "We have detected their surveillance devices in these chambers. They have been watching us sleep. They did not build this station to explore. They built it to guard what lay beneath." Danny thought about everything he knew about Horizon's Edge. The strange location, the unusual security protocols, the areas that were always off limits. It all made sense now. The lockdown lasted 3 weeks. Admiral Bennett's ships surrounded Horizon's Edge like predators circling wounded prey. No vessel could approach or leave without permission. All communication channels were blocked except for official military frequencies. The station had become a prison, and everyone inside was a prisoner. Danny continued his work in the alien base during this time. The soldiers allowed him access because Patricia had insisted. She said his knowledge of the station's systems was essential to their research. But Danny knew the real reason he was there. Patricia wanted allies, people she could trust when the time came to act. More Corvani woke during those 3 weeks. They emerged from their pods slowly, 1 or 2 each day. Vethra guided them, explained the situation, helped them adjust to a universe that had changed while they slept. The awakened Corvani were calm and patient. They answered questions when asked. They demonstrated their technology when permitted. They treated the humans with a gentle respect that made Danny feel ashamed of how humanity was behaving. One evening, Vethra requested a private meeting with Danny and Patricia. They gathered in a small chamber away from the main area, away from the soldiers and surveillance equipment. "There are things you need to know," Vethra said. "Things we have not shared with your military observers." Patricia leaned forward. "What things?" Vethra touched a panel on the wall, and a small holographic display appeared. It showed a map of the local region of space, with Earth at the center. "The Shrike were defeated in our war long ago," Vethra explained. "But they were not destroyed. They retreated to the dark spaces between galaxies. They have been rebuilding ever since." Danny felt cold fear grip his heart. "Are they coming back?" "They are already moving," Vethra replied. "Our sensors, even from sleep, have detected their scouts at the edges of this region. They know that humanity has reached the stars. They are evaluating you, measuring your strength, planning their approach." Patricia pressed her hands together. "How long do we have?" "In your terms of time, perhaps 50 years, perhaps less. It depends on how quickly they decide you are ready for harvest." 50 years, less than a single human lifetime. Danny thought about his niece back on Earth, only 6 years old. She might live to see the Shrike arrive. "Why are you telling us this?" he asked. "Why not share this with the Admiral and his people?" Vethra's dark eyes reflected the blue light of the hologram. "Because your leaders already know. They have known for decades. The alien showed them records that the Corvani had recovered from human computer systems, classified documents, secret reports, communications between high-ranking officials. The truth was worse than Danny had imagined. 40 years ago, a human deep space probe had detected anomalous signals at the edge of the solar system. The signals were later identified as Shrike Scout transmissions. A secret committee was formed to investigate. They discovered evidence of the ancient war between the Corvani and the Shrike. They found references to sleeping guardians hidden in remote locations, and they decided to keep everything secret. "They believed they could use us," Vethra said. "They built this station to control access to our resting place. They installed monitoring equipment to study us while we slept. They wanted our technology, our weapons, our knowledge. They wanted power." Danny felt sick. His entire career, his entire life on Horizon's edge had been built on a lie. He had been an unwitting tool in a massive deception. "Admiral Bennett is part of this committee," Patricia said. It was not a question. "He is one of its leaders," Vethra confirmed. "He fears what will happen if the truth becomes public. He fears losing control more than he fears the Shrike." Danny stood up and walked to the edge of the chamber. He stared at the ancient walls, at the symbols that had glowed here for thousands of years. The Corvani had dedicated their existence to protecting young species from destruction, and humanity had responded by trying to use them, control them, exploit them. "What do you want from us?" he asked without turning around. Vethra's voice was gentle. "We want nothing. We offer partnership. The Shrike are coming whether humanity is ready or not. You can face them alone with your current technology and divided nations. Or you can stand with us as allies and have a chance at survival." "And the Admiral?" Patricia asked. "What happens to him and his faction?" "That is for humanity to decide. We are not here to rule you or control you. We are here to help, if you will accept that help. Danny turned back to face the alien. How can we fight the Admiral? He has ships, soldiers, weapons. We have nothing. Veth Ra made a gesture that might have been a smile. You have something more powerful than weapons. You have the truth. And you have something else that I have observed in your species, something rare in the universe. What is that? Stubbornness. Your people do not accept limits easily. You push against boundaries. You refuse to surrender even when the odds are against you. This quality has caused you much trouble throughout your history, but it may also be your greatest strength. Danny thought about this. He was just a maintenance technician. He fixed pipes and filters and electrical systems. He was nobody important. But he had found the alien base when others had missed it. He had been stubborn enough to investigate when he could have ignored the anomaly. And now he was standing at the center of the most Admiral Craig Bennett arrived at Horizon's Edge on a gray military cruiser named Vigilance. He was a tall man with silver hair and cold blue eyes. He walked through the station corridors like he owned them, which in a sense he did. Danny watched from a distance as the Admiral met with his officers. He saw the way people stepped aside, the way they lowered their eyes. Bennett was not just a military commander. He was the face of the secret that had controlled humanity's future for 40 years. But Danny was not afraid. He had spent the past week preparing. He had mapped every communication node on the station. He had traced the cables that connected to the emergency broadcast system. He had tested the frequencies that could punch through the military jamming. Patricia had done her part too. She had copied all the evidence they had gathered, the documents, the recordings, the Corvani testimony. Everything was ready to be transmitted at a moment's notice. Now they just needed the right moment. It came on Bennett's second day aboard the station. The Admiral demanded a meeting with Veth Ra. He wanted to negotiate, he said. He wanted to discuss terms of cooperation between humanity and the Corvani. But everyone knew what he really wanted. He wanted to assess the threat, measure the alien's strength, and find ways to maintain control. Veth Ra agreed to the meeting. Danny did not understand why at first, but then the alien looked at him with those deep black eyes, and he understood. The meeting was the distraction they needed. While Bennett and his officers descended into the alien base, Danny made his way to a forgotten maintenance junction in the station's lower levels. The emergency broadcast equipment was old and dusty, but it still worked. He had tested it himself 3 days ago. Patricia met him there with a small data chip containing everything they had gathered. Her hands were steady as she handed it to him. "Once you start the transmission, they will know," she said. "They will come for us." Danny nodded. "I know, but they cannot stop a signal that has already been sent." He inserted the chip into the broadcast system. His fingers moved across the controls, opening channels, boosting power, breaking through the military jamming. He was not just broadcasting to human ships and stations. He was sending to every receiver in the system, every satellite, every colony, every listening post. The truth went out at the speed of light. Danny included everything: the history of the secret committee, the discovery of the Shrike threat, the construction of Horizon's Edge as a control point over the sleeping Corvani, the decades of deception, and the offer of alliance from an ancient species that wanted nothing more than to help humanity survive. He also included a live feed from the meeting between Bennett and Veth Ra. The alien had agreed to wear a recording device, transmitting everything that was said. Across human space, billions of people watched as Admiral Craig Bennett demanded that the Corvani submit to human authority. They heard him threaten military action if the aliens did not cooperate. They saw him reveal himself as exactly what he was: a man who valued power over truth, control over cooperation. And they saw Veth Ra respond with calm dignity. "We have watched your species for a very long time," the alien said. "We have seen your wars and your cruelty, but we have also seen your courage and your compassion. We believe you are capable of greatness. If you choose it." Bennett's face turned red with anger. "You are in no position to lecture us. You are surrounded by my soldiers. You are outnumbered and outgunned." "Perhaps," Vethra replied, "but we are not alone." At that moment, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Bennett's officers rushed to check their devices. They found that the transmission was active, that everything they had said was being broadcast to the entire human civilization. Danny heard footsteps in the corridor outside his hiding spot. Soldiers were coming, but it did not matter anymore. The signal was out. The truth was free. Captain Tony Mercer, the station's security chief, found Danny before the military soldiers did. Mercer was a big man with a scarred face and tired eyes. He had served under Bennett for years. But something had changed in him during the past weeks. "I should arrest you," Mercer said, "but I have been watching those aliens. I have seen how they treat each other, how they treat us, and I have seen how the Admiral operates." He stepped aside and let Danny pass. "Go. I did not see you." Danny made his way back to the alien base, moving through passages that the soldiers did not know about. When he arrived, he found chaos. Bennett was screaming orders. Soldiers were pointing weapons at the awakened Corvani. Patricia stood between them, her arms raised, pleading for calm. Then Vethra spoke, and the sound cut through everything. "People of Earth, I speak to all of you now through your communication systems, through the signal that one brave human made possible." The alien's voice reached every corner of human space. Ships paused in their orbits. Colonies fell silent. Billions of people listened. "My people have watched many species face this moment, the moment when they learn they are not alone. The dangers exist beyond their understanding. Many have failed. Many have retreated into fear and denial. The Shrike consumed them. But humans are different. You have a quality we rarely see. You call it stubbornness. We call it the refusal to accept fate. Throughout your history, you have faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. You have pushed against every limit placed upon you. Today, a maintenance technician discovered our hiding place because he refused to ignore an anomaly. He shared the truth because he refused to accept that secrets should control his species' future. He is not a soldier or a leader. He is an ordinary person who chose to be extraordinary. This is what we have waited for, not military strength or technological advancement. We waited for proof that humans would choose truth over fear, cooperation over control, the future over the past. The Shrike are coming. We cannot stop that. But together, humans and Corvani, we can face them. We offer our knowledge, our technology, our alliance, not as masters or servants, but as partners. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. Silence filled the station. Admiral Bennett stood surrounded by his soldiers, his face pale, his authority crumbling. The secret he had protected for so long was exposed. The power he had wielded was gone. 1 week later, Bennett was relieved of command. The secret committee was dissolved. Earth's governments, forced into transparency by public outrage, began formal negotiations with the Corvani. Danny returned to his maintenance duties. He did not want medals or ceremonies. He just wanted to fix things. But now, when he walked the corridors of Horizon's Edge, people nodded to him with respect. They knew what he had done. They knew that an ordinary man had changed history. Patricia continued her research, working alongside Corvani scientists to understand the technology that could help humanity prepare for the Shrike. She told Danny once that they might actually have a chance now. A real chance. Vethra visited Danny in his workshop one evening. The alien watched as the technician repaired a water recycling unit. "You could have stayed hidden," Vethra said. "You could have ignored what you found and lived a quiet life." Danny shrugged. "That is not who I am. When something is broken, I fix it. Even if it is scary. Even if it is dangerous. That is why your species will survive." Danny looked up at the alien. Will we win? Against the Shrike? Vethra was quiet for a moment. I do not know. The future is not written. But I have watched civilizations face this threat for millions of years. Most fell. They let fear divide them. They let secrets control them. They faced the darkness alone. Humanity will not face it alone. You have proven that, and that gives me hope. Danny finished his repair and wiped his hands on a cloth. Outside the workshop window, stars gleamed in the endless black. Somewhere out there, something terrible was coming, but somewhere out there, hope was also growing. A maintenance technician had opened a door. An ancient alliance had been reborn, and humanity had taken its first real steps toward the stars. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Important moment in human history. Maybe being nobody important was exactly what this situation needed. We need a plan, he said. We need to get the truth out without getting killed in the process. Patricia nodded. I have been thinking about this. The station's communication system is controlled by the military now, but there are other systems, older systems, that they may have overlooked. Danny understood immediately. He knew every system on this station, including the backup emergency broadcasting equipment that nobody had used in years. I can make it work, he said, but I will need time, and I will need distractions. Vethra inclined its head. My people will help. We have waited thousands of years for this moment. A few more days of patience will not trouble us. For the first time since the lockdown began, Danny felt something like hope. The odds were still terrible. The enemy was still powerful, but they were not helpless. The truth was a weapon. And Danny Cole, maintenance technician, was about to use it. The station was not a research outpost or a mining operation. It was a prison, a cage built around sleeping giants. And now those giants were waking up, and the people who had kept them secret were afraid of what would happen next. Vethra looked at the humans before it with those deep black eyes. You must decide what kind of species you wish to be. Will you hide from the truth, or will you embrace it? Danny knew his answer. He had known it from the moment he stepped through that hidden passage, but he also knew that the people in power had different plans, and they had armies and ships and weapons to enforce their will. The real battle was just beginning. The Admiral is coming personally, she said. He will be here in 1 week. What will happen then? Patricia was quiet for a moment. I do not know, but I think we need to be prepared for anything. Danny thought about the sleeping aliens in the pods below. They had trusted this hiding place to keep them safe. They had waited for thousands of years, dreaming whatever dreams their kind dreamed. And now their fate, and perhaps the fate of humanity itself, rested in the hands of people who valued secrets more than truth. He could not let that stand. He would not let that stand. But for now, all he could do was wait and watch and hope that when the moment came, he would know what to do. Part of him wanted to tell everyone immediately, to run to the command center and show them the recordings on his tablet. But another part of him felt afraid. Not afraid of the aliens or their technology. Afraid of what might happen once the truth came out. He thought about the way the station had been built. The location had always seemed random to him. Just another asteroid in a belt full of asteroids. But what if it was not random? What if someone had known about the alien base all along? Danny looked at his tablet. The recordings were clear and detailed. He had proof that would change human history. But proof could be dangerous. Proof could make powerful people very nervous. He needed to be careful. He needed to think about his next steps. But one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again.